I'm Karen. I am the founder here at Fave Lifestyles, and we are sharing Laurie Thibert's brave story today. And it is such an honor to share her story and to bring it to the world, because we know when we share our stories, there's those experiences that maybe you've had that you can relate to, that maybe there's a moment where you need to be validated with your feelings and your experiences, and that's why we bring these stories together, is to celebrate those brave moments that maybe sometimes we just figure that, you know, we've just got it, we're the I got it girl. And this way we can celebrate, we can connect, and we can really take to heart what it takes to be a woman in today's world. And to, you know, in the olden days they used to share stories. They would have story circles. And that's kind of what we're creating here. We have an audience. There are all the ladies out there. We love to have fun, and this is our Celebrating 1 Million Women Being Brave mission and movement. So we invite women to come and share their stories. Any woman can go and share her story on our app at favelifestyles.app. And it's an interview style, so you answer 16 questions, and share your story to inspire other women. And otherwise, you can go read a story too and be inspired. But let's talk a little bit about you, Laurie, and celebrate you today.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here and to share this incredible journey that I've been on. Completely unexpected. If you would have told me several years ago that this is where I'd be at this point in life, I had a completely different story then.
Yes, and we will get into that a little bit, but let's just read a little bit about your bio here. It's Laurie, a senior account executive, is known for her outstanding ability to build lasting relationships and lift up those around her. Her career reflects a deep commitment to growth and making a meaningful impact in the communities that you share. Passionate about clean water and education, you have served on the board of WaterAccessNow.org, a nonprofit that has installed 276 wells in Ghana, reaching 213,000 people. For more than a decade, you've been partnered with radio host Delilah and Point Hope to advocate for forgotten children. You can see the schools, she and her son, Osei, and their team are building in Ghana at pointhope.org. And kind of a fun little fact here too is Laurie and Osei are also writing a book about their journey, A Life Between Two Worlds, coming soon.
Yes.
Wow. Well, so we're going to start off with sharing a little bit about your story. And so tell us what kind of is the circumstances and what the whole story is about.
So the story is about that pivotal moment in life when you have this vision of where you think your life is going, and then all of a sudden it takes a very direct turn, that one that you hadn't expected, I hadn't expected, and at the same time I knew I was being called to be on this completely different path, and having the courage to say, okay, game's on, let's go.
Okay, so tell us exactly where were you in life, and what is the circumstance where we're going to be talking about that pivot point in life too.
Absolutely. So my background was as a corporate account exec, and I'd been with the company for 10 years. At that point, I had been traveling nationally for work, handling one of the largest accounts that they had. I got burned out and had left that to become part owner of a startup company. And during that time frame, I went over to Africa to start helping with the water wells in Ghana, and at the same time also helping with education and some schools there. And the second trip, I was asked to lead the trip, and I did, and unexpectedly, the third day that I was there, the woman that ran one of the schools got a call that a child that she was close to at the children's home had died that day, and we went to be support to her. And I met a little 8-year-old that the moment that we interacted, it was like our souls connected. And the crazy thing is 3 days earlier, as I was boarding the plane in New York, as I was walking down the jetway, I had an overwhelming feeling I was about to fall in love. Somehow, I kind of thought it was tall, dark, and handsome. So it was this little precious young one that was just, I knew something happened in that moment, and I didn't know what. And within a couple of days, we had another connection. And when I got back to the hotel and started journaling about the day, the voice kept saying over and over, "You just met your son."
Wow.
And I was, hold on, time out. That was not what I came over here for. and at the same time, the clarity was very much there.
Yeah. So let's go back just a step. So you go to this orphanage and you meet this young little man.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about how that came about.
So as we first arrived at the children's home, there were hundreds of kids around us, and they were all clamoring for attention and can I have your sunglasses, your hat, etc. And he didn't do that. He just stood back and just kept watching. And at one point, he asked me, he says, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name's Laurie. What's your name?" He says, "My name's Osei. Will you remember?" And I said, "Yes, I'll remember." And there was something that happened right then that I didn't know what was happening. Again, I just knew. And we came back 3 days later because we also were doing a documentary film on the trip, which was actually later shown in 4 international film festivals. But there was a piece of that we were looking at adding about the children's home, and we went back to see if we could add the piece on the home, and the answer was no. In that interaction, as we were leaving the home, Osei and I had some interaction during that time, but as I was walking out, there was a voice that came from universe source. Some people say it was internal. This certainly didn't feel internal in any way, shape, or form. And it said, "You need to connect with Osei, and you need to connect with him now." And the voice just kept getting louder and louder each step that I got closer to the exit. So I looked at my team and I said, "Hang on a sec, watch my bag. I need to go find Osei." And we went and talked for a half an hour or so, and when we got back to the hotel, that's when the voice came back and just kept saying, "You just met your son."
Yes, so here you are, you're in your career, you're making good money, you're thinking that you're going to go meet Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome, and this little 8-year-old takes your heart.
Yes.
And so what was that like? I mean, the feelings that you must have been feeling, it's like, this is not what, not what I had planned. Anybody else in their life where you're not where you thought you would be? That's kind of what it reminds me of. Oh, we've got a little heckles going up there. I relate.
It was very overwhelming, and the clarity was there, but it was just very overwhelming because it was a completely. This was nowhere in the script of what I thought for life.
Right. So here you are now. You've decided, okay, I'm going to look more into this and see what it's like. So tell us a little bit about trying to all of a sudden decide you want to adopt, and what is that like because you were single?
Yes, so the pivotal moment, right before we jump into that, the pivotal moment to where the courage really came into play was when it was about 3 months after I met Osei, and I had just started dating someone, and I thought, well, maybe if things work out here, I might sponsor Osei for school, or if we decide to adopt, then maybe it will be the first child that we adopt. And I realized every day longer it took for me to get Mr. Right in place was a day longer that a key developmental time for him that I could not get back. And it was in that moment of letting go of the vision that I had for myself and instead stepping onto this completely different path and knowing that for this next period of time, I was still in the middle of startups, I was still in the middle of doing this adoption, potentially bringing him home, and I knew full well that Mr. Right was going to need to be put on the back burner for probably a significant period of time. And so stepping into that, at first I was resistant, I was frustrated, I did not want to give up on these dreams that I had had for myself. I was 40 years old at the time. And at the same time, I knew with clarity that this is where I was being called. And it was in that moment of being able to just let go of the dream and be able to say, okay, I don't know what this is going to be like, but we're going to do it, let's go. And in that moment, all of the frustration it just dissolved. The anger, the disappointment of letting go of the dream, it just dissolved, and I knew that whatever it was, we would handle it, and we would figure it out. And we've talked about this before, so I have this visual that I use is when I'm over here in the place of faith, things flow. And when I'm over here in the place of fear, everything stops. But then there's this place in the middle that I call the wobble.
In between?
Yeah, in between, where there's one foot here, one foot there. And as long as I can recognize if I'm in the wobble or if I'm over here in fear, I just need to get back over into this place of faith, of knowing what I'm here to do. breaking down the steps of whatever it is and say, okay, game's on, let's do this.
Yeah.
And that's where the brave piece comes in, because it's not so hard to step into that when we're truly aligned.
Yeah, so you step over into the space of faith.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of the circumstances along the road are still in the wobble.
Yes.
And so those, just tell the ladies a little bit about what some of those struggles were along the way that really you had to really step into that faith.
Absolutely. So in Ghana, they've got a number of laws for being able to adopt. And there were two key ones that applied to me. Number one, you needed to be married. Not. Number two, I needed to be gainfully employed. Well, I was employed, and then in the middle of the adoption, I was let go from my job because I couldn't tell them how much longer I was going to need to be over in Ghana. I was over there for 2 months at that point. And I knew that somehow this would all work out. Long story short is I got bumped from flights 3 different times. Each time I met somebody key to the next piece of the puzzle. I could show going to work for that startup company, that I started my own consulting company to do that, which checked the box for being employed. You know, piece by piece, as these obstacles came up, we were able to address them. And then as we go farther into Jose's situation, when I met him, he was about 8. He hadn't had access to early childhood education. He had a first to second grade reading and writing level, but by the time the adoption was done, he was 11. And so we've been working with the school for a year to figure out exactly where we would bring him, and it was determined he would go into with kids his own age, which was about 6th grade. So can you imagine going into 6th grade with a first to second grade reading and writing level? And we had checked out everything, homeschool, private schools, etc. The public school had the most support to be able to help him. But there were so many different things. He had some family members who had beaten him almost to the point of death prior to me meeting him. He had been abandoned by family members, so there was a lot of trauma that was there. You wouldn't know it by meeting him, but knowing him, I learned and figured out, we'll get these pieces into place. There was a point that I needed to go find his family in order to get the birth certificate for him and death certificates for his parents. And I had the names of 2 living relatives, no addresses, no phone numbers, anything, and had to go find them. Again, this is where the faith piece comes in, is these little nuggets that come in from different areas. I was texting with my sister on her birthday while I'm in Ghana and she's back here in Portland, Oregon. And she's out to dinner and there's a woman who has a clairvoyant vision and she says, you need to get this message to Laurie, that when she enters Jose's village, there's going to be either a female elder or a grandmother who either is approaching from the left-hand side of the main road or living in a house on the left-hand side of the main road. 3 weeks later, his maternal grandmother lived in the 3rd house on the left-hand side of the main road, had been looking for him for 2 years, and had all the information that we needed. But it took another year, 10 months, for me to get the documents.
Wow, the persistence and the resilience that it takes to do something like that, and then to take on that responsibility of a child that is coming with trauma. I mean, that is huge. I mean, that's a big decision on your part to just keep going against all the odds. And seeing that and stepping into that faith.
You're absolutely right. So the attorney that I worked with over there, she happened to be the attorney which was the head of the Human Rights Advocacy Center. After the adoption, she actually went on to be the Minister for All Women's and Children's Affairs in the country. And when I brought Jose back 2 years later to reconnect, we met with her each time we're in country, and we were just there again this summer, and met with her again. And she said, Laurie, do you remember how nervous I was on the adoption day? And I was like, she's a big, formidable woman. This woman, you don't see her intimidated at all. I had no idea. And she says, yes. She's like, everything was stacked against you. The only reason that adoption happened was because of your faith. But the thing is that I knew that somehow, some way, this was going to happen. And it didn't matter what the challenges were, because we would figure it out. And we went through, when Jose first got here, we went through a honeymoon period, because he had called me mom for 1.5 years. We talked 3 days a week. I had a phone over there with him. But once he got here, after that 2-week period of singing and dancing, etc., then life got real. And it was so hard that he had a hard time connecting with me at all for almost 4 years. But now we're like this, and we have been since he's been about 17, and he's 25 now.
Oh,
But what happened in that is it wasn't about him changing. I needed to change. And I got trained in something called the Nurtured Heart approach, which is all about being strengths-based, focusing on in the moment, what is working in this moment. What are the qualities of greatness in the person, in the situation, or in myself? And letting all the rest of that go. The moment that, like the day that I got back and really anchored into that, everything changed.
Wow, the lessons learned, and it, there's lessons all along the road.
Yes.
And stepping into that faith, just really keeping going and knowing what you know, that is the right thing to do. So as we are talking about your story too, what is something that you would really love the ladies to take away with them in your story?
I think that the lesson for me, even in this story, is that whether it's personally, professionally, whether it's challenges we're experiencing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, regardless, is to really tap into that strengths-based approach. Look at what's working in this moment. Look at where is it that I'm feeling called. Is it to improve myself? Is it to go into the place of forgiveness? Is it at work that I'm feeling friction? Where can I lift up the other person and find in this moment, how can we lift each other up and be in partnership? Because in there, a lot of the resistance starts to dissolve, and we realize that, and you're excellent at this, Karen, you do this all the time. You lift women up. Women and men, especially the women in our community, you lift them up, and it's so easy to want to lift you up at every opportunity as well. So I'm just so grateful.
Yeah, I'm grateful for you too, and especially for sharing this story, because there's so many golden nuggets in it. So looking back at the whole experience, is there something you'd like to highlight as we close out and share with the ladies that you would like maybe a little golden nugget for them to take away with?
My definition of courage actually came from working with you on this project, and I realized what I see courage as now is that grace to step into the unknown, especially when it's hard. And even though we don't know what it is that's going to be on the other side of it, especially if we know that this is a place we're being called, whether it's on a business, whether it's something in our personal lives, etc., to step in and do the best we can and be as strong and as positive, as kind and loving and supportive as we can be, because that's where the magic happens.
Now, isn't that beautiful? Ladies, and you heard it from Laurie. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your son, and it's going to be really interesting, especially when your book comes out, because we'll hear a little bit of his experience of what his side of the story is, and how those stories intertwined, and how they come together. And he's doing so well, and you were just back in New York with him.
Yes, so we actually, as part of our adoption, we were the first international grant recipients for an organization called HelpUsAdopt.org. And Help Us Adopt, this year alone, will give $3 million out in adoption grants, up to $30,000. Wow. Very inclusive, whether it's solo parents, LGBTQ, not any particular faith or no faith. It's anyone who is called to provide a loving home to a child in need. They want to be there to support them. And Osei was invited to be the keynote speaker at their gala 2 nights ago in New York City. So we were there, and it's just really beautiful to see him not only step into the courage of who he is as an individual, speaking for the first time in front of 300 people.
That's huge.
But he wants so badly to be able to help others on their journey of life. I'm just very proud of the beautiful human being that he is.
Yeah, Excellent. Well, Laurie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Ladies, if you'd like to read the entire story, please hop over to favelifestyles.app. It's a website, and we're also on Apple. And you can read the entire story because there's so many golden nuggets in it. And there's different things that we all relate to in our own stories. So I encourage you to do that. And Laurie, it's just a pleasure and honor to be on this brave journey with you.
Likewise, Kim. Thank you very much.